There's a romantic notion that if we were free from all dictates, free from rules and obligations, and from having to live up to certain standards, that we'd experience greater peace and joy in our lives. Essentially, if we were free from all structures, that we then, as a consequence, would be allowed or enabled to just be ourselves. Society, the society that each one of us forms part of, is based on structures. Every aspect of society has been founded and has established itself around structures. And for most of us, from a very young age, through our having gone through an education system, we have been subjected to these structures. We can remember back to our days in school when we had to wake early in the morning and when we had to attend an institution where we were being asked to conform to certain rules, where we were being asked to adhere to certain timetables, and we were expected to follow the norms and the conditions of that institution so that we would be able to work as part of the institution and benefit from what it had to offer. Later in life, then, we become part of the work world, where we hold positions and we get jobs in different roles. And the same kind of structures are in place, where we're part of institutions where they expect us to adhere to the norms and to the rules, and we are expected to conform to them so that we can benefit from participating as part of the overall system. Now, talking around this topic can bring up a lot of ideas, certain opinions around how, yes, it would be fantastic to be free from these restrictive impositions, those of both education and those of work. And so I think we arrive at a point when we start to have to question, what's our relationship to structure? As social beings forming part of this society in which we live, we have by default signed up to adhering and abiding by certain structures. But what does that mean for us? It seems quite obvious that we have this type of love-hate relationship with structure. We love it insofar as it actually provides a means for us to have more clarity and coherence in our own lives. By default of attending work, by default of adhering to the different structures which are in place around the institutions that we attend, we then have to regulate how we live when we're not working or when we're not attending these institutions. And what I mean by that is that you're sitting here watching this video. It's quite likely that you're not watching it at your work desk. Your day has been structured and organized around what demands are being made of you by the institution that you're part of. So if you're attending work, it's likely that you're going to have to wake up in the morning, have breakfast at a certain time, get yourself to the office by a certain time. It's likely that you're going to have to eat lunch at a certain time, and all the other different things which are happening throughout your day are going to be dictated by the structure of that workspace that you're part of. And then when you finish in the evening, you're going to have to regulate and organize your free time so that you can enjoy it in whatever way is most apt for you. But the thing is, we can find ourselves disgruntled, or at least at times not happy with having to conform to this strict structure. But without the strict structure, if we wasn't to be there, we would be left to define our own. And for most of us, that would be a daunting, if not overwhelming task. If it was up to you to decide how you were going to spend each and every waking moment and hour and week and year, that would cause a certain degree of anxiety. And so we can appreciate that by being part of different institutions and being obliged to adhere to their structures, we by default benefit from this, because it means that our days and our lives have been organized for us to a huge degree. If we were to have the opposite experience, how would our lives be? And if we think about this in relation to how we do spend our free time, for a great many people, when they go about enjoying their free time, they will revert to other structures. One classic structure which has existed for decades now is that of sitting down and just watching TV or some online streaming service, where the hours in the evening are occupied by this task, which is just menial enough and allows us to absorb our attention and occupy our focus. But if we're not inclined to do that, other people like to do exercise. And if we look at that space, for people who enjoy exercise, quite often they end up going to a gym. And a gym, again, offers a certain type of structure. It's a place that's open at certain opening times, closing times. There's going to be a regulation on what devices or what machines are available for you to use. There's going to be personal trainers available for you to refer to. And for many people, they enjoy the fact that there's somebody there who can coach them, a trainer who can guide them, someone who can put structure in so that their training practice is more effective, more efficient. And perhaps people don't go that far, but they do enjoy the classes. They go to spinning classes, or they go to kettlebell classes, or they go to different classes, again, where structure is offered and provided. We can see this within the realm of exercise, that people can look to find support through structure. But it occurs in all aspects of our lives, whether you're a musician or whether you're someone who likes to take photographs or someone who likes to go walking, or perhaps you're into gardening. It doesn't matter. We usually like to find some kind of way that we're going to be able to organize how effective we are in engaging in this activity, which might mean that we join a class, which might mean that we join a society or a group or a community. And fair enough, you might think, well, this is just because I want to have the social connection. But it's also asking of us and demanding that we conform to the structures of that specific group or class or organization or community. We have to adhere to them to whatever degree that they're being imposed. And so even when we look at our social lives or our free time, we're inclined to look for structures so as to help us to find some kind of way to organize it. And what this comes down to really is a need for us to know what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. When we don't know what we're going to do, or we don't know when we're going to do it, we find ourselves at a loss. We find ourselves in this kind of wishy-washy space where it causes a lot of anxiety and discomfort. We get bored, we get restless, we experience a great deal of uncertainty, and it causes us to feel the burden of not knowing what's going on. And while we might experience this within our working lives, we can very definitely experience it within our personal lives. By having structure, we can avoid this. By knowing what to do and when to do it, we eliminate to a greater degree the possibility of experiencing this kind of uncertainty. What does it mean for us, though? What does it mean for us when we look at our lives in this context, when we see ourselves as being dependent on structure in this way? Because it comes back to us to reflect on who we are within our own lives. And if we say that we're dependent on the structures of work, and we're dependent on different structures within society, within our social lives, so as to help move us along in terms of the things that we do and our experiences and what we achieve, what does that mean, or what does that say about us as individuals? Essentially, who are we in relation to our own lives? If we are giving our lives over to the boss within the organization, or the boss within a different group, or a different community setting, or a different aspect of our social lives, then what space is there left for us to be the boss in our own lives? And in order for us to take up the position of the boss, within our own lives. We have to be able to establish a structure within our own lives. And not just establish the structure, but maintain it and ensure that it's been adhered to. And this is where we find challenge. This is where we find ourselves being compromised. Because no longer can we look to any external apparatus, any external structure that we are subject to. An external structure where we have to play by the rules and where we feel an obligation to conform to those rules. Now we are only looking towards ourselves. We are the ones that we are serving. We are the ones where we're behaving and acting in ways where we feel responsible to no one else but to ourselves. And this is a position which requires us to have cultivated a great deal of responsibility for who we are. And when we take this seriously, when we really give ourselves to becoming skilled at managing our own existence, to establishing structures which allow us to be able to live effectively and adhering to them, then we free ourselves in a way where now we are no longer dependent on external structures for us to be able to live with meaning, with purpose. While we still engage with external structures, we still commit ourselves to following the norms, the rules, the structures of different institutions. We do so from a position where we are intrinsically motivated. We are following our own model, and this model makes it easy for us to be able to follow the model of others. We no longer feel that we're being dictated to by these other external structures, but rather that we are sharing the structure that we have and allowing it to engage with the structures which we're participating in, and then we are able to serve and deliver better within those spaces. So that feeling, that love-hate feeling that we have with structure is no longer as apparent, because now our relationship to structure has been defined by us. It has been embarked upon by us, and it has been maintained and sustained by us, and it's giving us a sense of our own being autonomous, being an individual who is participating in the social structures, but not being enforced by them, not being crowded by them, not being limited by them.